What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rants, no hate. All right, it's a couple of things I want to talk about in this video, and just want to basically sum some things up because these stories are just going on to the point where people are making such a big deal about it, but it's nothing unusual. The thing is, we don't know all of what's true and what's not. Now, the first situation, I just want to bring this to the light. Okay, and just look at the logic, the reason, and the common sense of it all. Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson. We've heard so many different things. They have a podcast called, I think, Spit Bucket Podcast. Now, they were saying what supposedly happened between Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson fallout. Now, what they're saying, I haven't heard anything from Frank Martin. What we heard from Shakur Stevenson was a snippet of something that I'll get to in a second. Well, basically, Frank Martin, what was said about Frank Martin, that he's leaving Derek James and Errol Spence, that they're a package deal, so he can't work with one without the other. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what they were saying. And they also said that it Spit Bucket Podcast. So if y'all want to watch it, whatever. That's the name of it. What they were also saying is that the reason that Frank Martin was leaving them was because they negotiated against Shakur Stevenson and agreed to a term that he didn't agree to, that he had nothing to do with the negotiations. That's what they're saying. I haven't heard this from anyone else. And when I say anyone else, I mean the sources that's involved. So I really don't know how accurate that is. But if that would be the case, yeah, I can understand, how you'd feel that someone made a negotiation without you being aware of any of it, accepted a price without you being aware of any of it. Okay, but where the thing comes in for Frank Martin in terms of why it looks bad on his behalf is because he's the same guy that was saying if he had the same opportunity that Shakur Stevenson had to fight Devin Haney, he would have took whatever was offered. Because now once I win, the ball is in my court, just to turn around and do the exact same thing that Shakur Stevenson did. Which was basically, no, I'm not taking this amount of money. I want more. Okay, but see, the difference between those two situations, which people are not pointing out, is this. Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney, there was no actual agreement, nothing signed. This was verbal. Okay, negotiations. Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson had an agreement, had a date. Everything was all systems go. Just to turn around and now say, nah, I'm not cool with that. Okay, so that's the difference. You agreed to the terms. Then now you're saying, nah, I don't want that. So that's the difference. So even if, let's say, Derek James and Errol Spence did what these people at this Spit Bucket podcast is saying, you still agreed to it. Just to turn around and change your mind. Okay, so it's obvious he knows that it's very possible Shakur can beat me. So I'm not as confident as I speak. But that's what they were saying. Now, in terms of someone leaving a trainer for whatever reason, it happens. It's their career, not mine. So it happens. I don't see a reason for me to get upset about it and act so shocked about these things. I mean, it happens. Now, when you look at that situation, okay, it's hypocritical because one guy does something, you claim if it was you, you'd have did the opposite. Now, when it is you, guess what? Now you don't. Now, according to, now you do exactly what they did. Shakur Stevenson, from a snippet that we heard, basically said he DM'd Frank Martin and actually was going in on him, saying how he explained to him the split and everything, and that pretty much Frank Martin agreed to it just to turn around and decline. Now, you got to have the same energy with both guys because they both did the same exact thing. The one criticism, and I can understand for people towards Shakur Stevenson is for some reason because he basically used Loma and that same snippet as an example of Loma was going to make more money fighting me than he fought anybody else, right? And why would you turn the fight down? But that's all he said. He called Frank Martin a pussy. He's a bitch. He's a bitch ass nigga. That nigga's a pussy. He's a bitch. He's a bitch ass nigga. He didn't have that stuff to say about Lomachenko. And I don't care how accomplished or unaccomplished the fighter is. If you turn me down and the reason is because you want more money, but then I don't have much to say about you. Now another fighter does the same thing. Now, true, with Loma, it wasn't signed, sealed, and delivered. It was, this is what we're offering. But still in all, his energy is just not the same with Lomachenko. Just like when he got in the ring and had a lot to say about Devin Haney in a negative light. And then he got skunked. And I believe the only reason that he ended up in the end still being number one over Loma is because Loma, basically, him and his trainer, manager, whatever, the trainer, they said at the end of the fight at the post conference that there'll be no rematch. They said they didn't want the rematch. People always overlook that part. Yeah, they said they don't think Devin Haney wants to fight because Devin Haney's going up, but they said they wasn't interested in a rematch at the post conference. They both said it. His trainer said it, and he sat there nodding and said, yeah, they both said that. So at the end of the day, that criticism I could understand people throwing at Shakur with that. And the fact that, the same thing he's saying about Loma is like, well, the same thing goes for you fighting Devin Haney. You were going to make more fighting Devin Haney than you made in your whole career. So what are you saying? So you're basically calling out Loma and Frank Martin for that reason, but you did the same thing. And I believe that Shakur Stevenson, in his mind, he thinks that he's like some big pay-per-view star or something. Like, the only guy in that division that's a superstar is Tank Davis. The guy next to him is Ryan Garcia, who just got knocked out by Tank Davis. So at the end of the day, it's like, see, everybody want this whole I'm the A side or I'm just as valuable as you, to the point where even whatever they've done in the past. Do you guys realize? And before I even get to that, let me just end that and say, they all did the same things. So you can't call Frank Martin a bitch and a ducker and not say the same thing about Shakur or the same thing about Loma. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that, because they all did the same thing. Fuck star power. Let's look at, this is what we're doing. This is who we're fighting. We made an agreement. Now you're declining. In the other cases, there was nothing, no dry ink. It was just basically verbal communication or text messages or whatever, and it never went to shit. So it's different in that sense. Okay, but still in all, it's the problem is the money. I want a bigger split. Okay, so they all did the same thing. It's not a big, it's their life. It's their fucking careers. So I understand why everybody's acting so, I can't believe this and blah, 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 and whatever. Look, Terrence Crawford, for example, let's get into him and Errol real quick. Terrence Crawford was undisputed at 140, not 147. What you've done in the past has nothing to do with what you're doing now. But in Terrence Crawford's situation he was being avoided by people. Just like Errol Spence was once being avoided by people. Up until the point where they started thinking and feeling like they saw mistakes and holes in his game. Reality is this though, okay? And like I said in the last video I made about them, I don't feel like Terrence Crawford is doing anything wrong if he has Errol Spence, if the rematch happens at 147. And it's obvious that there will see people talk so much and they love to add what they think versus what they actually know. How many countless people said they are contractually, they were agreed, so it's contractual that they fight the rematch at 154. No. Then if that would be the case, it was an agreement that the next fight has to be at 154, then there's no way Terrence Crawford can say, well, either give me more money or we fight again at 147. That's the only, no, there's no way. There's no way. It obviously was not contracted. And the fact that Errol Spence was saying, I definitely want the rematch, but at one, hopefully is at 154. So if anything, it was verbally. No dry ink. That's a breach of contract. How the hell you think you're going to get out of here and say, oh, well, either we get this or we don't? Even for people like example, when you look at, we can look at Tyson Fury versus Deontay. They had a verbal, just an agreement off the record that became, talked about later. And they had the rematch. And then in the third fight, Deontay ends up having to take, Fury to court in order for the third fight to happen. But initially, it wasn't for a third fight. It was for, he wanted money for the damages he accused him of, the dent in his head and all that kind of stuff. Then it turned into, if I'm going to take step aside money, you're going to give me this. Fury said, what? I'm not giving him nothing. Anything he earned from me, anything he gets from me, he's going to have to get in the ring and earn it. There was nothing in paper and written, okay? But regardless of how it went, the third fight happened, but they had to go to court and all that shit. Okay? If, Canelo's situation with Triple G, it was a 2-fight deal. So Canelo can't say, well, nah, I don't want to fight you. Now, in order to not get sued by Triple G, he could offer him money. But the network will say, no, we're going to sue you because we want this fight. That's what the agreement was. So him paying Triple G you think they're going to say, oh, well, you know what? Let's forget. No, they want this fight. They want this fight. That's what the agreement was. So there's no, I agreed. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. 2 fights. And this is a part of it. Oh, I changed my mind. Nah, it doesn't work like that. Now, as far as Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence goes, look, Errol Spence, like I said again before, for him to beat Terrence Crawford, he's going to have to obviously be different than what he was in that last fight. Most of us do not see him being able to be different in a rematch just because they go to 154. Now, will he be stronger at 154? Would it be different? We don't know. For most of us, we feel like, no, he'll just get beat again. People think the more weight, the better, but sometimes it gets to a point where you stay at one weight class for so long. We don't know. And the way he got his ass kicked, yeah, he still has the heart. But can we honestly, confidently say he's going to go in there and win the rematch based on what we saw? I can understand why people feel like no. But it's one of them things where you don't know if the weight was a factor or not. He's the one. And this is basically me saying this based on his own words. So this is why when people say, oh, people making excuses. No. This is his words. I just hope that I definitely want the rematch, but at 154, is this me saying, oh, I think they should fight at 154 without him saying that? No, because he's saying that. I'm saying that's what he wants. So it's obvious he's indirectly alluding to the fact that he will feel stronger at 154. He's been talking about it way before he lost. This is a fact. Everyone knows that. People just need to grow up. Now, in terms of the rumors that he's leaving Derrick James, I've heard nothing of the sort from Derrick James or Errol Spence. My thing is, if we're so damn soft, this man has been with you and you have held 3 championships at 147. 1 loss, now all of a sudden I need a new trainer. What kind of shit is that? And then people, oh, Derrick James a bum ass trainer, Derrick James. Look at what he's done with Jermell Charlo. That's a bum ass trainer. Look at what he's done with Spence. That's a bum ass trainer. He just won for Trainer of the Year, right? Now all of a sudden he's a bum ass trainer because this is the ignorance. Definitely fanboys talking, and I'm not even taking that shit serious because obviously they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and I haven't heard any of that from them. Now people are pulling up some old clip about them having a heated exchange or whatever, and it's like, you know what? People just make up anything to get some attention. Now, as far as him fighting Crawford at 154. You can't say Crawford is wrong if he says, nah, let's do it again at 147. You really can't. But morally, this is where it's I can also understand why Errol or anybody else would look at Crawford in a certain way. Why? This is what people fail to understand. Errol had 3 belts and clearly was the biggest star. You even heard the ovation in the building. He was definitely the star. And he outside, he was the guy that people he was the A side. That doesn't mean everybody thought he was going to actually win, okay? But he was the A side. So to make the fight happen, he gave Crawford 50-50 because Crawford said 50-50 or no fight. So that fight happened, which is true. So when Leonard Ellerby says there's people, oh, that's just his boy. Like, nah, y'all. Pay attention to what's going on. Stop with this fucking fanboy shit or this hate shit. He's right. Because if Errol Spence says, nah, 60-40 or 80-20 or whatever, or no fight, the fight never happens. And guess what? Terrence Crawford still at this point to this day, if that fight doesn't happen, he does not have the stardom that he has now. Because who else was he going to fight to get that? No one. For Errol Spence, it could have been, I'm going to fight somebody else, or you know what, fuck it, this the fight. And he's pricing himself out or whatever. I'm going to 154, drops the belts. Now, guess what? You got my belts because I went up. Now, people could say he ran. It doesn't matter. But the point is, those belts are not going to be a package deal. He just is no longer champion. The belts are vacated. Now, what? Tournaments or they just appoint certain people to fight for the titles, however it goes. That shit's going to take at least 2 to 3 years. How old will Terrence Crawford be in 3 years? Was he like 35 now? So he'd be 38 years old. So think about what I'm saying. This is a process that right now, Terrence Crawford is sitting high because Errol accepted the fight. Crawford did his part and he whooped his ass. But this man agreed to your terms, so the fight will happen. I don't give a fuck about y'all getting into y'all feelings because you on Terrence Crawford's nuts. I'm just being real about the fight itself. If Errol Spence says, nah, fuck that, I'm not giving you 50-50, the fight never happens. The same way when Anthony Joshua was saying to make the fight happen, with Tyson Fury, 50-50, because that's going to be another excuse for him to not want to fight me. Do y'all guys remember him saying that? Because I certainly fucking do. And he didn't have to give him no 50-50. And then, oh, but you got to understand, Tyson Fury's the biggest. No, Tyson Fury was never a bigger star than AJ, and that's bullshit. He was never a bigger star than AJ. AJ wanted to make the fight happen. It's as simple as that. And look, to this day, how it never happened. Someone actually made a comment about Anthony Joshua and Hearn. There's a channel, I don't even remember their names. It's these two guys, but I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to be nothing but honest with you. They are so pro Deontay Wilder to where they actually said, okay, now they're saying they don't believe anything Eddie Hearn says. He's a liar. He made it seem as though the fight was there, and then all of a sudden there's no fight. Eddie Hearn wants to fight. AJ said he wants to fight. Wilder is the one, let's just be real. He keeps saying he'll knock AJ out. And I said the more confident he talk about what he'll do, what's not being said is what he is him wanting this fight. And look, let's not let money be a deciding factor. Let's make it happen. This is a legacy fight. You don't hear him saying that. You do not hear him saying that, right? So, that being said, they end up saying, rumor has it, Daniel Dubois and AJ is about to fight. Then they shoot down the fact that, well, Dubois just came off of a loss to Usyk. And that they'd rather see Wilder fight Usyk because Wilder's a bigger threat than AJ and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. He got the right hand on. Wait a minute. You know what they not saying? First off, the fight was supposed to be Usyk versus Fury. We know Fury's the one who's ducking that fight. Facts. You don't make an offer and then call a person stupid for taking a bullshit offer that you giving. You're admitting that you gave him a bullshit offer. But then you got Mauricio Suleiman saying people are pricing themselves out. No, they're not pricing themselves out. Fury doesn't want to fight Usyk. I don't give a fuck how many of y'all think Usyk will lose to him. Well, Fury is obviously not as confident as y'all are. Okay, and they're not saying that. So guess what? Dubois ends up being the mandatory for Usyk. So Usyk just basically was honoring fighting his mandatory. So why y'all trying to make it seem like Usyk just took a fight that he thought was going to be an easy fight? No, he's honoring his mandatory. Meanwhile, the last thing that Deontay Wilder did was knock out Helenius, yet they credited to Malik Scott's great training, and Malik Scott got, Wilder on a whole different level now, and he's doing this. AJ's looking better with such and such, with our Derek James. So we want to see what happened. Yeah, I get all of that, but let's not sit here and nut hug and make up lies, man. Okay, because what I'm saying, and nobody's saying, oh, Eddie Hearn's some saint. No. What I'm saying in terms of the Eddie Hearn thing and the AJ thing is, well, why is Wilder not fighting anybody? Why is AJ rumored to be about to fight Dubois? So what is Wilder doing in the meantime? Still living off of that Helenius knockout? You understand what I mean? So Helenius, Dubois. I mean, I think in that fight, Dubois would be the favorite. Okay? If they was to fight each other. But why was Helenius such a hero or great warrior when he fought Wilder? Oh, nah, you can't call that man no bum. It's just that Wilder's that good. But then when he fights AJ, he's a bum. Oh, he's fighting Wilder's left over. We know why AJ fought Helenius, because we know what the original plans was and who it was supposed to be. Dillian White, he fails a drug test. Then guess who failed the drug test? Helenius. But people, for some reason, they take the actual puzzle that you purchase, and then they get 10 other puzzles and mix all the pieces up and try to make something to be what they want. You're not going to put the puzzle together properly with the wrong pieces. And this is what they're doing and giving y'all fucked up information. So, and this is what I'm saying is, I don't care what fighter you like or don't like. Just be honest. Because to me, it's like, well, damn, this guy, Hatman Strikes Back, was talking all reckless about AJ and Hearn ducking Wilder and this is, wait. So you mean to tell me he's ducking Wilder because he's saying he wants the fight? And Hearn. Hearn don't want to say nothing that's going to make the fight not happen. But how many times have you heard him say, when it comes to Wilder, I don't know. You negotiate with him. Wilder and Finkel themselves have admitted the truth that Hearn and AJ has been sending them contracts throughout the years, up even to more recent times. And then, but what did Finkel say? The very last time it was like, let us get past Helenius, then we can pick up. Okay, so what is Hearn and AJ supposed to do? Please, Wilder, please, fighters, please. Whatever happened to all that talk about fighting in Africa, I want to do this. And I said, it's always a lot of talk about what I want to do. I want this fight, that fight. He hasn't even fought Andy Ruiz. Somehow it's AJ's fault that the fight didn't happen. So if AJ's saying, I want to continue to fight, and then all of a sudden, you know what you don't hear anymore? You don't hear these talks about the fight happening in Saudi, right? You don't hear any talks about this anymore. So what is AJ supposed to do? Sit back and not fight because? Well, that's what Wilder's been doing. Y'all might still be high for that knockout, but that's been a long time ago. And AJ just knocked him out. AJ is still fighting. So instead of you guys sitting back being critical of, oh, but he should get back to what he was doing and he's not ready for Wilder. But then y'all want the fight. But then when the shit don't happen, it's AJ's fault. So you want the fight, then you don't want the fight. I know a lot of y'all sit here and make it seem as though certain fights, it don't matter if it happened or not, simply because you're scared that deep down inside, even though you're talking shit, your guy might get beat. Because there's no reason, like for me, every fight that has happened, whether it was a New Wave versus the guy he just knocked out, whether it was Dillian White versus Tyson Fury, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These fights need to happen. They need to happen. The outcome is the outcome. I don't think nobody thought Duran was going to get knocked out in 2 rounds by Thomas Hearns. That was going to be considered a super fight. Also, let me make this point clear because I don't think I said this earlier. Shakur Stevenson versus Frank Martin is no super fight by far. Neither one of them are superstars. And it's not considered a super fight. It's considered Shakur fighting a guy that's now getting recognition, and let's just see how fast Shakur will beat him. Pretty much, that's how that fight is seen. This is no super fight. So, with all of the I'm this, I'm that, and I'm offering you this, and then the fight not happening, and all the talking commotion, that's not going to make things work out. So, if the fight was meant to happen, then it would. Both fighters got to definitely want the fight. Now, as far as Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence goes, this is something that people need to understand. You guys have already made up in your mind that it's going to be Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford. One, you're assuming that he's going to beat Charlo. He may very well. Does that guarantee he's going to fight Crawford? Is that a guarantee that him and Crawford's going to fight? And I guarantee you this. Crawford won't be able to pull that 50-50 shit with Canelo. Yeah. And you know what that fight's going to come down to? Popularity and who's more accomplished, who's done more. You understand? That's what that fight's going to come down to. Now, for people to say, yeah, but Crawford's two-time, undisputed champion. If that would be, no, you know what I'm saying? That's what they're going to say. But they're going to look, well, but Canelo's been a champion and multiple, and he did. No, fuck all that. Star power. Terrence Crawford's not on that level of star power yet, if he ever becomes that. But he's not going to get that from Canelo. You better believe Canelo's not going to say 50-50. You better believe Canelo's going to take the lion's share of the money. Not to mention, you're coming up in weight to fight for my belts. Who the fuck are you to tell me 50-50? Which is exactly what I'm saying. Now, Crawford was at 147. That's where he's been for a while now. But I have 3 belts to your 1. And I'm going to say 50-50 just for the sake of making the fight happen. Get a motherfucker some credit. And that's why I'm saying why for Crawford to even say, yeah, we could definitely make that happen at 154. I mean, we could do that. That man gave you the opportunity. So that's why I'm saying morally, I can understand where people going, this boxing game is fucked up. Because for Crawford, he's not ruling it out, but he's saying, I want more money for it to happen. Otherwise, if y'all don't give me what I want, then it's 147 again. Well, then there's no reason to have a rematch if it's going to be at 147 because nobody actually believes that Spence is going to win, that he's just going to get beat up again, right? So are you that interested to see a fight that you already predict is going to be the same fucking results? So if it is a weight issue, and why you think Jeff Mayweather and other people that said that same thing is that, nah, we already see at 147 what happened. I'm going to make you do it again. Why would I let you become more comfortable at 154, right? Now you hear people saying different things. Well, Crawford said he walks around at 170, so Spence walks around at 180. No, I both heard them say higher than that. Both of them. Now, regardless, 175 ain't that much up, but for Spence, all up to 183. Okay, so my whole point was that, but let me say, so morally, the fact that, okay, I've been and reshaped and remolded myself to fucking give you the terms you wanted. So now in a rematch, you won't do the same thing for me. That's the dirty side of boxing. Now I don't give a fuck who it is. So look at Jeff Mayweather. So if he was in them shoes, like he already said, I make him have to do it again at 147. So even if in his mind he knows or feel like, yeah, the weight probably was definitely, I don't feel like this is the same guy that I beat. And they're all saying that Spence wasn't the same, right? But they're saying 147. Why? Well, because you know that it's an uphill battle for him to beat you at 147. And they all believe that the weight, you hear everybody say it, they're like, I don't think Spence was the same. I think the weight bothered him, right? So, okay, then if that's the case, what sense does a fucking rematch at 147 make if he's drank? Does it make that make sense? Because if that's what was a big part of it,